Frank Fritz, a former cast member of American Pickers, has been sent to the hospital 4 times for seizures and pneumonia, according to the information provided by 911 calls. On July 14, Frank, who is 59 years old, suffered a stroke and was taken to the hospital. He did his recovery in a care facility before going back to his home in Iowa. The United States Sun has uncovered unique information regarding 911 calls that were placed from the residence, which ultimately led to Frank being brought to the hospital. It was on November 17 that Frank's caretaker dialed 911 to report that he was having a seizure. The operator was informed by her that he just returned home from inpatient rehabilitation for a stroke. Right now, he is experiencing a full-blown seizure, possibly more than one. The man has been trembling. After that, she spoke with the operator about ways in which she could be of assistance to him, as she was being transferred to the medical department. On the 7th of December, another caregiver dialed 911 to report that their blood pressure was elevated. She made the following statement on the call: "I have a stroke victim who is 59 years old and has elevated blood pressure." She could be heard telling Frank, "You have to go because your blood pressure is too high." You could hear Frank groaning in the background as she spoke to him. In response, he said, "Oh." On the 21st of December, another caregiver contacted 911 for possible pneumonia. This was the second of 2 calls that were made. Following that, Frank's guardian called the following day. "I'm going to need an ambulance to take someone to the hospital because I think they have pneumonia," he said during the call. "I'm going to need ambulance service. As the protector, I am I. He suffers from a disability. He is confined to a wheelchair." State of teorie. Following the stroke that occurred in July at Frank's residence, his friend submitted an emergency application for the appointment of a temporary guardian and conservator on August 18. They stated that Frank's decision-making capacity is so impaired as a result of the stroke. The following is an excerpt from the records that were obtained by the United States Sun. Mr. Fritz's decision-making capacity is so impaired as a result of his stroke that he is unable to care for his own safety or to provide for necessities such as food, shelter, clothing, or medical care, without which he may suffer from a physical injury or illness. According to the statement, Mr. Fritz's decision-making capacity is so impaired that he is unable to make, communicate, or carry out important decisions concerning his own financial affairs. In the court documents, there was a reference to an exhibit that was provided by a physician, which confirmed that Frank does not have decisional capacity. The following additional information was included in the legal documents. Decisions must be made for Mr. Fritz's care and placement while he continues to recover and receive treatment for his injuries. It is imperative that a guardian and conservator be appointed in order to prevent any immediate harm from occurring to him. The person who submitted the petition asked for Frank's guardian to be a different longtime friend of his who has been assisting him in decision-making since the stroke. It is Midwestone Bank that is acting as Frank's conservator and managing his financial affairs. The guardian will provide assistance to Frank in the treatment of his Crohn's disease, as well as in his ongoing physical therapy. The former American Pickers star will also receive assistance from him in the areas of food shopping, cooking, and getting Frank to any activity he feels up to. The finances of Frank. Initial plan documents were submitted by Midwestone Bank, which disclosed Frank's $292, with $22,832 of that amount being spent on in-home health care. The star will have to pay a total of $273,984 each year for their medical care alone. The United States Sun just got fresh photographs of Frank's property, which feature a wheelchair ramp that has been constructed specifically for the celebrity. A wheelchair ramp was visible around the rear of the house in La Claire, Iowa, where the property was located. The firing of Frank. The last time Frank appeared on American Pickers was in an episode that aired in March of 2020. He had taken a break from the show in order to recuperate from back surgery, which resulted in his receiving 185 stitches and 2 rods in his spine. Frank was able to shed 65 pounds while he was away from the show. Furthermore, he disclosed to the United States Sun that he completed 77 days of treatment for alcohol addiction in Iowa. During the interview that took place in 2021 with the United States Sun, Frank disclosed his feud with his co-star Mike. According to Frank, "I haven't spoken to Mike in the past 2 years. Despite the fact that he was aware that my back was infected, he did not call me to inquire about how I was doing. But that is the way things are. Everything is stacked in his favor 100% of the time. For the sake of demonstrating how much, I can't even bend down that far." Okay, that's all right. The situation is similar to that of Aerosmith, with Steven Tyler serving as the band's frontman in this case. "I found my place on the show. I'm currently in second place, just behind him. I don't have a problem with it, but it's possible that he does have a problem." In fact, he went so far as to state, "I believe Mike is trying to get his brother Robbie in there to have me replaced. I am really perplexed as to why he is acting in such a manner toward me." There is true hope. After being absent from the air since September, the television show American Pickers made its comeback on Wednesday, January 4. Mike disputed that there was a quarrel between the two of them and even expressed optimism that the fan-favorite performer could be able to return to the show after suffering the painful stroke. A question was posed to Mike by Capitol Paparazzi during his trip to Washington, D.C. in December. The question was whether or not he would be willing to make peace with Frank. "Frank and I are friends, and he was just at my brother's graduation for his kids right before he got his stroke," Mike said. "Frank was there for graduation. If there is anyone who is considering Frank, they ought to be praying for him." This is in response to the fact that ratings have dropped to their lowest point of the season.